Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 3 of the rebooted, re-deluxe, re-everything Retro Renaissance podcast with me, your host, Chris Shanks, with my partner in crime, the man with the plan. We're trying to have a conversation here. Just come back to YouTube. Brahelia Tom, how you doing, buddy?
Hola, yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, buddy. Apologies to our regular listeners, all three of them, for our late entrance tonight. We've put it back.
Those three guys are going to be so pissed.
Yeah, we put it back because I went out to pick up a PSP, which is all fun and exciting, and I'm forgoing the pleasure of playing on it to talk to you, wonderful people. And also with us tonight, he's currently eating, I think, is Aydan, who's AFK at the moment as he munches his way through a veritable Sunday night takeaway feast. So, how have you been, Tom? What have you been up to? What have you been playing in the past week? Do tell.
Pretty damn good. Yeah, I haven't been up to too much. I just put out a couple videos back on the YouTubes. I did a video on the Power Glove, which was shite, and a video on Virtual Hide Light for the Sega Saturn, which wasn't as shite.
I love that Hide Light, man. That was awesome. I thought it was really well put together, yeah.
Did you like that?
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. I did get a retweet from Linkara today, from that guy with the glasses for that video, so that was cool.
Oh, really? What?
Yeah, man.
The Angry Video Game Nerd?
No, the other one. That guy with the glasses is a dude on there, Linkara, does like comic books and stuff like that. But yeah, he's a cool dude. But other than that, I did play Broken Sword Director's Cut today on my iPad, and it was just fucking awesome. Really enjoyed that. Other than that, not too much.
Awesome. And yeah. So what have you been playing?
Me?
Yes. Broken
Sword on my iPad. Other than that, what else have I been playing? I was playing some Final Fantasy Tactics the other day on PSP, strangely enough.
Oh my giddy aunt, I've just looked up how many games there are on the PSP, and at present there are 642.
Good luck, man.
Oh, wow.
Is that talking? I'm not from that one, yeah. Yeah, Thomas.
Is that not counting Japanese?
No, that's EU releases only. Fast about.
Shit.
But really, who's going to want Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Party Edition?
I don't know, man.
I would.
Yeah.
And, hold on. I don't have to include the Spanish and German ones, do I?
No, fuck that, unless you can speak Spanish and German.
They've got some nice double packs over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Battle Royale. Battle Royale. What's that? I want to know about Battle Royale on the Sony PSP. If any of you have played it, it was only released in India. Let me know.
Well,
some kind of Swami game. Who knows?
We need a PSP specialist.
We do. Well, Mel Jesus Rocks, he always has good PSP reviews. He always has good things to get on the PSP.
Name drop.
Name drop. So yeah, I'm probably going to be checking out some of his PSP hidden gem videos to see what I can get. God damn it. Fucking game putting on pre-owned stickers on shit.
Oh, I hate that.
Why do I need to know it's pre-owned $29.99, you piece of shit? I only paid £3 for it. Anyway, Medal of Honor Heroes, in case you're wondering. So, Aydan, are you there? You're just making strange noises in the background.
I'm sort of here. I can talk in between chomping, so yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. How have you been? You were on last week. How are you?
And what are you chomping on?
I'm not too bad. I'm just shattered still because I haven't stopped all weekend. Me and Mark went game hunting yesterday morning, and I gigged in the evening. So
what did you find game hunting?
I can't let you know because it'll ruin the next episode we're uploading.
You mean I actually have to watch your videos?
Well, or you could just skip straight to the end, I guess.
Skip to the end.
Skip to the end.
No, that's a complete lie, of course. I do watch Aydan's videos, and I hope you do too. And if you don't, you can check him out at Aydan Watkins on YouTube.
Yep. And in response to Tom's question, I'm eating chicken fried rice from the Chinese.
Nice. Round of applause.
Bit of a golf clap there for the 2 golf games I now own on the PSP.
Ah. He's a happy PSP owner.
I am a happy PSP owner. Do you know, I said ages ago I wanted a PSP, so I'm glad to have one. It's a funky little system. It's charged up.
How much did I set you back today, Max? You just picked it up, didn't you, Chris?
Yes, I did. It was £39 with 7 games.
I assume that's a good price.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly decent game. I already had 3 games anyway, so I was kind of looking for one on the outskirts, like trying to get one or whatever. But everything else I've seen is kind of more expensive. You could generally get a bundle for around 30 to 50 quid. So I didn't think I did too bad, but it's in absolutely stonking condition, so I'm chuffed with that. And it was only a 25-minute walk away from my house, so in the same area of Bristol that I live in, so I could go and pick it up tonight. Just made sense, really.
Right on.
So yeah, that's it basically. So, this week we will be discussing survival horror. And all of its many cliches, and that's why Aydan's on. Aydan is a Resident Evil nut. So, yes,
Yep.
And in fact, that's where survival horror began, or rather, not where it began, but where the term began. Just give you a little bit of a history here, as we do every week when we have these kind of topical things. So, Resident Evil that was released in Japan in 1996. And that's where the term was first coined of survival horror. And it was, of course, Resident Evil influenced by games such as 1989's Sweet Home.
Yep.
And Haunted House from before that in 1982.
May I add to this, Chris, if you don't mind, with me being the local Resident Evil nut?
Okay, you go for it, buddy.
Just like, obviously, Christ, I'm trying to think now. Resident Evil was created by Capcom, which was also the creator of Sweet Home, and they were both created by, I believe it was Shinji Mikami is his name, and he's the guy who directed both games, which is why they share similarities. And just another thing as well, Resident Evil was heavily inspired by Alone in the Dark, which was essentially what was like the sort of first 3D sort of camera angle based horror game, which was on PC first, I believe.
It was that Infogrames?
Mm-hmm. French developers, aren't they, I believe?
Yeah.
That's right. Shinji Mikami was, of course, the director of Resident Evil. However, the link between the two was, I believe, the Kiyoshi Kurosawa, which I believe is, and I think he was matched in there with both of them somehow. Although I don't think it was necessarily the same things. They sort of crossed over a lot of stuff. But yes, a sort of psychological horror role-playing game was Sweet Home in 1989, released on the NES. Do check it out if you get a chance to. Random encounter battles, all that kind of stuff. So, Resident Evil, of course, released in 1989, 1996 on the Sony PlayStation, and later ported for the Sega Saturn and Windows.
Yep.
And re-released recently for the DS and on Sony PlayStation Network. And there is actually a director's cut, which I had. I have got one. So yes.
And there was the remake as well, don't forget, which was released on GameCube and Wii.
That's right, the GameCube and Wii remake, of course.
Sorry, go on, Chris.
No, that's alright, I was going to go on with the history, but you carry on.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, everything I'm saying is still relative to the game. The irony of Resident Evil Director's Cut is the fact that it's actually not a Director's Cut whatsoever. It's basically the same game that's rehashed a little bit more. The real technical Director's Cut was actually the remake, because many of the things, such as Trevor's letters, who was the architect for the mansion, for example, was actually planned to be in the original game, as well as items like the fuel containers, burning bodies and that. So the Director's Cut is such a cop-out on the PlayStation.
If you paid extra for the Director's Cut like I did, you've been gypped, is what he's saying, basically, ladies and gentlemen. So, carrying on there. So Resident Evil, of course, spawning many, many sequels up until the recent one was Resident Evil 6, I believe.
Yep.
And then so around Resident Evil 4, I want to say, in 2005, began to incorporate more features from action games like FPSs and third-person shooters. So, and it's sort of at that point people started asking, well, why hasn't it gone away? And recently you've seen a lot more indie people come along and sort of change it again. So it's really an evolving kind of genre at the moment. So the game design of a survival horror is kind of like a subgenre action adventure game. So you're generally very underarmed. It's all about min-maxing your inventory. By that I mean you've only got 3 bullets. How are you going to use them? You don't want to use them on any old zombie. You know, you want to be using a melee weapon or something like that on a zombie instead. So it's all about survival and how best you're going to get through a situation. And often there's a lot of non-combat challenges as well, like solving puzzles at certain locations and collecting and managing your inventory. There'll be areas which are off limits until you gain certain items, and sometimes there'll be alternative routes and stuff, and sometimes there'll be like mazes, and they're also always dark and claustrophobic. Do you know what I mean? So they make use of like really bad shadows and stuff like that. But then there's also games which make use of these huge open-ended environments as well. So, but more often than not, you'll find yourself stuck in a room, perhaps with a time limit or not, where you've got to get out before an outbreak or you get gassed or something like that. So lots of like the early releases of it with the enemies, like you would always it would take a while for you to see an enemy. We'd sort of see one rush past, but you'd only see the shadow or something like that. And so you'd have camera angles, like in the old horror films, where they'd be lurking in areas that are concealed from your view just. Or perhaps off-screen sound or warning cues or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like really classic kind of horror. If you think of Paranormal Activity and all the cues that the guys in that are given, you know, that's how I imagine a survival horror to be, but with a shotgun. So there's normally, like say in Paranormal Activity, that's one thing, of course, but there's normally a variety of monsters and unique behaviour patterns. So it's say you walk through a door, suddenly And there's another door to your right. If you haven't cleared that room first, the monster that was in there might come out and jump out at you from behind and grab hold of you, and you got to then do a quick time event, yada yada yada. You all right there, Aydan?
Yeah, just listening in, mate. You know, just waiting for you to settle on the next topic so I can start ranting and lecturing you all about survival horror.
So, we'll start with the origins. So the early games were cases based on works by H.P. Lovecraft, who was the guy who, in turn, also gave a lot of inspiration to Stephen King. Stephen King, famous for It, The Shawshank Redemption, various horrors. And H.P. Lovecraft, his most famous series was the Cthulhu series, which is at its heart a psychological horror about this ancient god that lives either deep in the sea or way on a weird kind of coastline where there's cultists who revere him and stuff, and so whenever somebody goes to investigate, their head gets fucked with and stuff like this. So with Japanese sort of psychological horror, it's more kind of that sort of style, but with the Western world, we tend to have more action-orientated stuff.
Jump scares and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so lots of action, lots of blood and guts. So whereas you can think of Japan as alien, perhaps you would think of the Western world as aliens, as an example.
Very good one.
So there's a lot of various different games along the way. I think we've already touched on Alone in the Dark, and obviously Resident Evil's there. Really, the golden age, I suppose, started with Resident Evil in 1996. And from there you had things like Silent Hill, Clock Tower. Do you remember Clock Tower?
Yeah. That's very obscure. Not very mainstream as the others, but it is quite a cult following.
And then Corpse Party, which is an indie game, and the first sort of major indie game really for psychological horror.
Sound effects.
Overblood. I'm just reading through some now. The Note, Hell Knight, and then of course Resident Evil 2 came out, which Shinji Mikami said he wanted to tap into the classic notion of horror as the ordinary made strange. So instead of having the game in a mansion where nobody would normally visit, he put it into an urban setting, like a viral outbreak. So kind of like the difference between The Living Dead to The Day of the Dead. Those two kind of films, if that makes sense. So Day of the Dead's basically a cabin in the woods, loads of evil shit going on around it. Living Dead, Living Dead was that, or Night of the Dead. Was it Night of the Dead? Night of the Dead's the one with the cabin that was recently redone, wasn't it?
Night of the Living Dead, you mean, is it?
Night of the Living Dead, yeah, with Bruce Campbell was in the original. And then
no, that's Evil Dead.
The Evil Dead, sorry, that's what I meant. And then Day of the Dead's like the George Romero classic. There's loads of fucking zombies everywhere. 28 Days Later, I suppose, is another one. And in turn, with these games coming out, came those films like 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later, these massive zombie outbreak films, all the way through to today, where you can still see mainstream success with them, to the likes of The Walking Dead on TV and The Last of Us on the PlayStation 3. So that's a sort of a rough history of it. I mean, there are loads of games today out there, like, they're a bit different to that as well, like, if you look at DayZ, which is an online survival against zombies, not as much survival horror, but then you've got stuff like Left 4 Dead 2, where it's survival horror with massive co-op, where it's more or less turned into just an FPS fest. So yeah, and then you have the indie games like Slender, Amnesia, Deadly Premonition, and then there was one I played recently where, and I can't for the life of me think of what it was. You're in an office, and you're working late, and the woman, there's like a whole story evolves around, and you've got to try and get out of the office before this deadly widow comes to get you as a ghost. So yeah, very much focused on the survival aspect. The lights fucking turn off and on, and you get notes come up, and you go back to your computer. There's a note on your screen saying I can see you and stuff like this. So very traditional. And in fact, just read here, Shinji Mikami, the creator of the Resident Evil franchise, announced his new survival horror game, The Evil Within, coming in 2014. Mikami stated his goal was to bring survival horror back to its roots, even though this is his last directorial work, as he was disappointed by recent survival horror games for having too much action.
It was a stab at Resident Evil 6.
Well, it was a big steaming pile of poo, wasn't it? Because in Resident Evil 5, as far as I was concerned, it was all closed up nicely. You know, you've killed the guy who was the head of the Umbrella Corporation, and then suddenly there's 5,000 of these. So at any point you could have another Umbrella or corporation. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh well, I've got this instead, so that's all right.
The inner Resident Evil fan in me is trying so hard not to slap you right now, Chris. Stop butchering the story and the facts.
Well, that is the basics of it, isn't it? You know, the end of Resident Evil 5, this is a spoiler by the way, it's you get hold of the head of the Umbrella Corporation.
He's not the head of the Umbrella Corporation.
Well, alright.
Chris, I'm stuffing my face full of Malram right now, just trying to stop myself from going off, man.
Come on, right, well, tell the story then. What happens at the end of Resident Evil 5?
Well, no,
Aydan, go.
He's gonna go. Okay. Well, like, basically, like, the way the Umbrella Corporation was shut down, like, in Resident Evil, it's mentioned in the open dialogue, but I know what you're saying. Basically, like, sort of the main antagonist, if you will, of the entire series being Wesker. He's finally dealt with, by Chris, and, they sort of bring the characters from the first game, so Wesker, Jill, and Chris, who are, like, the main protagonists of the series, and everyone knows about, and they finally face off against Wesker, who's been through the series as well. They finally defeat him, and it is sort of like closure to the whole thing, I guess. Which is what Chris is getting at.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like the whole fucking story's done, and then 6 comes along and they just shit on the last 5 games. Do you not think, to a certain extent?
I would argue that 5's shat all over the other games as well, but this is a huge debate that can go on really. But I mean, I know 4 was a drastic change to the previous series, but there's still examples where it's very atmospheric and horror like I remember when you're running up towards the church and it's raining and it's really dark and creepy, and still had some atmosphere. But 5 and 6, just forget it.
Well, do you think that the series has gone too far now, Aydan?
Yeah, I would say so personally. I mean, they recently released Resident Evil Revelations, which is probably the best game they've released since the PlayStation days, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's on the 3DS, isn't it?
It's on everything. It's on PS3, Xbox 360, PC, 3DS, Wii U, everything, literally. But it's a good game though. I highly recommend it. Anyone who's a fan of old school Resident Evil or even enjoys the more action oriented ones should try it out, because it's a perfect blend of them both. But back to what you're saying, though, I definitely agree. I think the series has sort of it's gone too far. I mean, for me, understand me when I say sort of being realistic. I mean, don't get me wrong, zombies and viruses and monsters and shit. I get that, but there's a certain suspension of belief where you can think, oh, well, maybe they could be a virus that can, reanimate the dead. I mean, there already is in nature. They have things like that, not to the same scale we have in video games and movies, but like rabies and all that. It turns people crazy and that kind of shit. But the way Resident Evil's gone now, where you have like these 40-foot giant monsters that just come around and smash things up, and just some of the crazy shit you see now is just, you're like, how is this possible?
Yeah, it's total crap.
Yeah, it's just I think they've just gone big to sort of appeal to like different crowds, and it's backfired on them.
I think I absolutely love like the story of the first game, the way it's told through the notes that you find through the mansion.
Exactly, spot on.
It's absolutely fantastic. Like the way it's explained, like it's plausible enough that you go along with it.
Again, like you're thinking like the corporation is trying to mass produce bioweapons and stuff. Don't get me. I mean, it's of course it's ridiculous, but think about playing Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and your suspension of belief playing them compared to playing like 5 and 6 and even 4, and you're just like, what?
I think in 2 and 3 definitely. I mean, you don't know like how high the stakes are in the first game. Even when you finish it, you don't know how high the stakes are. By the time you get to 2, when it's broken out into the city, that's when it kind of gets to like you sort of start to realise just how big Umbrella is as like a shadow corporation, as well as this sort of like a pharmaceutical company? Or?
Yeah. But then, exactly, it's spot on, but now in like 4, 5, and 6, it's like every single person and their brother and sister and their auntie and has the virus and is making monsters, and it's just like, oh, come on, guys.
Did you check out Damnation, the newest Capcom movie?
Resident Evil, the CGI one, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I think it's the one where Leon looks like how he does in Resident Evil 6, the leather jacket, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't great either.
Nice.
Still better than Paul Anderson's job, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Anything's better.
Though I will admit, I'll swallow my pride here. It is a guilty pleasure, and I do enjoy seeing him in the cinema.
Yeah, it's true.
So, was Resident Evil, was that your first one as well, Tom?
First what?
Survival horror.
It would have been the first one I'd played as a kid, but I'm more of a Silent Hill dude. So I didn't actually start getting into Resident Evil until a few years back, when I absolutely aped shit on it and just basically went and bought every single game, even the Outbreak ones, which... But yeah, I'd say the first time I ever played a survival horror game probably was Resident Evil, but the first time I played a horror game would have been well before that. Depends what you class as a horror game, because I class like Alien Breed on the Amiga as technically a survival horror game, because you're up against a hard time limit, you've got limited keys, limited ammo to make your way around. Like the mechanics of a survival horror game were there, and I think they were there in kind of earlier examples as well.
Do you relate more to Silent Hill Alone in the Dark?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I have got Alone in the Dark, the first one, and it's really tough to play through. Like, if people complain about the controls in Resident Evil, it's nothing on the original Alone in the Dark.
Have you ever tried Doom 3?
Yeah.
Quite a horror, almost a horror type game, isn't it?
To a certain degree.
There's elements of it. Although it's a bullet fest, with loads of ammo everywhere and all the rest of it. You do go through stages where you're low on ammo and where you go past a certain thing and the lights will go off, and will jump out.
In terms of mechanics, I'm not so sure, but in terms of atmosphere, I'd say maybe there's definitely you could relate it to sort of being a survival horror-esque game for sure.
Yeah, spot on. I agree. I know you're saying it's like you're saying, Chris. It is literally just like it is a shooter at heart, but it tends to rely more on jump scares. Though I find, like for example, once you first get to the control panel and it's like the first 10 minutes, there's hardly spoilers. And then basically shit breaks loose, and then you're going back to the places, and you only have your torch, and you see people being dragged into vents and screaming. It's more sort of jump scares than it is like psychological, I think.
It's very set piecey.
Yes. And of course, recently with the PS4 coming out on PSN Plus at the moment, you can get Outlast, which I think Monkey Spaz did a playthrough and shit his pants to.
Yeah.
Recently.
yeah, I saw that.
Which was interesting. So if you get a chance, do watch Monkey Spaz 5000's playthrough of Outlast on PS4. It's very, very good fun.
For sure.
Excuse me.
They're keeping you up.
You are indeed. Sorry.
It must be my sexy voice.
Sexy voice. So, Aydan, why don't you wax lyrical to us about why Resident Evil is the greatest horror series ever?
Let me just get comfortable and grab my mail out.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the greatest. It's because, when people throw these terms around, I think it's very subjective. Say, for Tom, he probably thinks Silent Hill is, better, and I can understand why, but it's about what you personally prefer, isn't it? But I think for me, Resident Evil is just the perfect blend of horror, storytelling, action, and I'm only talking about the first few games though, so I'm talking Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, but as he's already mentioned, I just love the way that, say, for example, you'd find out how the story progresses through notes. You're dropped in the middle of the mansion or the or the police station, you're running about, you don't know what the hell's happened, what's going on, you're finding notes and memos left by, old researchers explaining what's happened, and it just slowly unfolds the stories and the plot twists, and I don't know, it's just awesome. It feels good to play as well. I think one of the best examples of gameplay and what feels satisfying is when you get a shotgun in Resident Evil 2, let the zombie come up close to you, pull the trigger, and you just watch their body literally just explode. And it's just so satisfying. The weapons feel like they actually have weight to them, which is something.
I don't know.
I
don't know if I'm. Sorry, I was just going to say I don't know if I'm broken inside either. But one thing I really do love about the earlier Resident Evil games, at least, is just the kind of management of limited resources.
Yeah, and that as well, exactly. And it's interesting to have puzzles based in real world locations as well, I guess. And they're not exactly anything too spectacular, but I just love it. Just seems to have a perfect blend of story, action, puzzle solving. I mean, there's not much more I can say that most people all over the world who've played the series already know. I mean, just let's face it, it's one of the biggest game franchises of all time.
Yeah, most definitely.
So, just while we're on the topic of Resident Evil, have any of you guys played Dino Crisis? The first two I'm referring to, of course.
Yes. Yeah, played through both on PS1. It's a recent thing for me, survival horror. It's not a big thing for me, I've got to be honest. I picked up Dino Crisis 1 and 2 and played through them. Really enjoyed them, actually. And then I picked up Resident Evil Director's Cut, and that's it. So far, that's all I've played through. I've got one of the Alone in the Dark games, and I've got the Saw game on the Xbox 360, borrowed from a friend to play through. But that's it. That's all I've done. Oh, I've played a couple of the smaller indie games, but nothing major.
Yeah, some of those have been really good lately.
Yeah, the Slender Man and stuff like that. And I've played. I'm playing through The Last of Us at the moment.
Yeah, that's a brilliant game.
So, yeah, I guess that's. So that's that basically. So that's my opinion on The Last of Us then. But yeah, no, I would like to get into it more. It's something I haven't really touched on.
Well, I'll be honest. The thing that really got me into it was, and again, like Aydan said, a lot of people have wanked about this over the internet, but it was when I played Silent Hill 2. Because the story in that, I can honestly say I've never encountered another game with a story like it.
Oh God, yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from.
It's the biggest headfuck ever, and you can spend... I mean, I once went online after I'd played the game because I was that kind of crazed on just trying to kind of put all the pieces together, because they don't hold your hand and they definitely don't fucking explain it to you.
Yeah.
And I basically read the better part of a 400-page dissertation that some guy had written on a plot analysis on a game facts, and by the end of it, I was still none the wiser, really, as to what to make of the plot. Because, like, it's all kind of... I mean, there's just so many dark subjects that you just do not see covered in video games, but they're hidden behind so many layers of abstraction. And, it's just kind of left up to you to sort of put it together in your own mind. And the amount of different opinions people have based on seeing the exact same thing and playing the exact same game is staggering. Like, whether you like the protagonist by the end or whether you fucking hate him by the end of it. I won't spoil the game, but, I mean, it's just... I can guarantee you won't play...
the one where you have the two fucking legs stapled together, innit? See? That sort of shit. Crazy mutant people.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But again, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why the monsters look the way they do. At least in Silent Hill 2, anyway. Like, they've kind of used it in later games and it hasn't really worked. Especially Pyramid Head, that's just fucking ridiculous. But 2, I advise playing, most definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I remember doing the exact same thing Thomas did. Now, like you said, I'm not spoiling anything to do with the plot or anything. It's nothing you don't learn throughout the game. But it's like Pyramid Head. The only reason he's been recycled so many times in the other games and movies and so on is simply because he's a popular character amongst fans, so they just simply shoehorn him in just for familiarity, and people go, oh yeah, it's Pyramid Head. But like, when he's talking about like how deep Silent Hill 2, it's truly insane, and I was staggered by it because after playing the game and also going through that and having a read of it, it opens your mind to so many things. Like, for example, I'm not going to go into too much information, but like one of the monsters, it's very, the way it moves and the way it looks, it's very sexual orientated, and the idea behind that, the symbolism is of the main character's, what's the term? His sexual repression, and
it's to do with his frustration. The fact that the reason, just like to give the story quickly, you play this guy called James. He's turned up to Silent Hill because he's got a letter from his wife saying to meet him there. But the problem is that in his mind, at least, she died like 3 years ago. But he goes there anyway with letter in hand and turns up. And a lot of the monsters and things that you see, and like a lot of these visions and stuff that you'll have in the town, are based on kind of James's subconscious, and are based around sort of a lot of the things that he sort of may or may not have done, and like the guilt that he feels for the things he may or may not have done. So there's like kind of like sexy nurses, like that are kind of, they're still fucked up looking and monstrous, but they move in this kind of really disgusting way, and sort of when you kill them, they kind of, they look kind of freakish, but at the same time, it's like, it's kind of hot. It's kind of fucked up how they kind of put it all together like that.
Yeah, and it's like how Pyramid traces James and is like this really powerful dark figure, but he symbolises his guilt and just the guilt he carries and the feeling that he deserves what he gets and that kind of thing. Again, I'm not going to go into the plot because it's such a great game. Honestly, I recommend people seriously need to play it. I mean, I remember when I played it. I mean, Christ God, was it about 2001, 2 maybe? I was only I was like 13, 14, and I was playing the game, and I literally shit my pants. There were times I had to there literally times I had to pause the game or save and turn it off straight away and not go back to it. But it's such a great game, like. I can't praise it enough.
So Pyramid Head is like the antagonist, right?
Essentially.
Yeah,
It depends. It's like you could sort of compare him to like Nemesis or Resident Evil 3, but obviously, you know, in terms of like the plot and what it's at, the psychological side of it, it's a lot more darker and a lot more important than that, rather than just a generic monster hunting you, you know.
Because there's also kind of a companion character / escort character, depending on how you sort of choose to treat her when you play the game, which will sort of affect the outcome at the end. Called Maria, who is basically kind of a more sexy version of the protagonist's dead wife, and she kind of ties into everything. To be completely honest with you, you just need to play the game.
Yeah, just play the goddamn game. But just wanted to jump on a side wagon now, just, you know, because like we sort of spoken about Resident Evil and Silent Hill, as well as sort of Alone in the Dark. Are there any other game series that you guys have played in a similar fashion? Because I can name about 3 titles so far, which I bet many survival horror fans have never played or barely even heard of for the most part.
Yeah, I do. I did play Condemned on the Xbox 360 when that first came out, and Condemned 2, which was a kind of it wasn't that bad, you know. It was okay. Fear, F-E-A-R.
I don't consider that survival horror, see. Fear.
And Dead Space.
Yeah.
That was one that I tried out. I didn't play it very much though, because I just kind of went meh. Fatal Frame.
Oh yeah, so that's another one.
And I suppose The Last of Us. That's the one, really. I've been playing recently.
Still, yeah. The 3 I'm going to mention. Nope, sorry, go on. No,
I was just going to say, I've been on a Saturn kick lately, so there's also a game called Deep Fear, and a game that you have to play by the late, great Kenji Eno called Enemy Zero. Play it.
Yeah.
It will kick your fucking ass. You will love it. And the soundtrack is awesome, composed by Michael Nyman, I think.
Yep,
it's awesome.
He mentioned something I was going to say. Deep Fear, for example, was developed by Sega internally. It's basically their answer to Resident Evil. It's literally a pure clone with a few extra bits in there. It's nothing. It's got the worst voice acting on the planet, done by literally. They must have literally just gone, right, okay, let's get some Australian people off the street, bring them into a studio. All right, you're going to be it's just like, okay, you're going to be a gay character who's an architect. Okay, go. And he's like, and I swear to God, YouTube, Deep Fear voice acting. And it's like, it's just, oh my, what have they done to my architecture? It's literally like that. It's, what the fuck were they thinking?
Oh, it's so good.
There are a couple of games that I've forgotten. Alan Wake.
Yeah.
Alan Wake was quite good. Fear Effect.
Yeah.
Well, go on, Tom. Say a bit on Fear Effect.
No, I haven't really got anything to say about Fear Effect. They're all good. Parasite Eve, the first one was good. Parasite Eve 2 was a big pile of shite.
Amen, brother.
Okay. And the Saw, like I said, I played the Saw. Shadow Man, not really that much of a... No, would you consider that? No, not really. I suppose.
It's more action. It's more
action-y,
yeah. There's one game on the Dreamcast that many people have probably never heard of.
And Zombie U, sorry.
Sorry.
Which I've got on the Wii U is particularly good.
Yeah.
Uses the pad very well. Go on the Dreamcast, sorry, you were saying?
Yeah.
Just before I go back to that, I was going to say I actually came very close to buying a Wii U just for like Zombie U and Zelda, but I'm holding that off at the moment. Anyway, about the Dreamcast, there's a great survival horror game on there. Christ, I'm trying to think who made it now.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
No, it literally is. I can't remember.
Blue Stinger, Carrier, Illbleed,
yep.
and The Ring.
Yep, those are two there I was going to mainly mention, and that was going to be Carrier. And
that was made by Jalico.
That's it, Jalico. That's the one. No,
I'm pretty sure Illbleed was the game that had the tagline in Japan, "You will shit with fear." No word of a lie, look it up.
Carrier's tagline is, "If you can hear it, you're already dead."
Yeah. No, that was a fantastic survival horror game. Very full 3D, very Resident Evil style with camera angles and that kind of thing. And it had a bit of a unique spin. I mean, it's cheesy by today's standards, but that was a fantastic survival horror game I really, really thoroughly enjoyed. If you guys can get it for cheap on a Dreamcast, or even if you're one of those people who burn copies, go for it because it's awesome. And then, oh god, the other one I also owned is Blue Stinger. Now, that's a weird mix of survival horror / action, and it's a weird game. The story.
The one with like the guy with a gun on the front and a weird kind of blue light going down.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that is exactly it. But the story is completely weird. The voice acting is awful. There's something. It's like it was a B movie on purpose. I mean, I know Resident Evil's "Stop it! Don't open that door" is really cheesy, but my god,
that was too close.
You're almost a Jill sandwich.
I got a shotgun. Sorry, this could go on all night. Carry on.
Go on, Abe.
Oh man, I fucking derailed it.
What is it? Blood. Anyway, yeah. Before we end up doing like an entire hour. Again, Blue Stinger was a great game.
Should have got serum. Sorry.
Yeah. Ouch. I'm trying to get my train of thought back now.
Sorry, I'm muting my mic for a second. Sorry.
Yeah, Blue Stinger. That's subjectively a great game, but like Carrier and then 200 Dreamcast, the ones that not many people have probably ever heard or played. But moving on to, we sort of went in towards the indie topic you were talking about earlier. There's one particular game I played that's very survival horror oriented. As in, it's got the survival elements of sort of DayZ and all the other typical stuff where you have to find items to, bandage, rip clothing to bandage yourself, food, water, that kind of thing. And the game is Project Zomboid, if any of you have heard of that.
Yes.
Ooh.
This is where basically you wake up in a house where your wife's been bitten upstairs and you're it's permadeath. So you have to, the first thing you have to do is go and find some wood to board up your house. And you go from there basically, so it's very survival orientated.
Yeah, very open world. And you can. Sorry,
your wife tells you she's hungry, so you go to cook food. If you leave the food on too long in the world, it'll burn and then it'll set the house on fire and your wife will die. So that's it, game over. So it's all a bit strange, really, but yeah, it's very good.
Very open world. Like I tried the demo on Steam, and you could just literally do anything and everything, but it's a lot more tense than other games. Like I found with DayZ, from what I've played, the zombies aren't scary at all. The only thing scary in DayZ is you get spending hours collecting your equipment and some knobhead shoots you and takes it. That's the only fear element I find with DayZ, to be honest with you. Of course, that's subjective, but
No, I do find now that I'm kicked to the nines on DayZ, motherfuckers better not rob me of my M4, by the way, that I just run around with a fire axe chopping zombies down left, right and centre. It doesn't bother me at all whether there's a zombie around. At first, you do have to worry about zombies, but then it becomes more about worrying about bandits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Does anybody know there was a survival horror game coming out? I think it was called Among the Sleep, where you basically play a baby. You're a baby, or a toddler, and that's it. All you can do is crawl, maybe kind of vaguely climb up stuff and hide, and that's it. And it's an empty house. There's a trailer for it. It's worth checking out. It's pretty scary looking from what I remember seeing of the trailer, but I don't really know what happened to it.
So this is due to come out in spring this year, and it's a first-person survival horror. A bit weird, and it's only going to come out on PC, OS X, and Linux. And so It puts you in the mind and body of a 2-year-old child being helped along the way by his beloved teddy bear. After being put to bed one evening, mysterious things start happening. Being played in first person, the game immerses players in a child's limitless imagination. In the borderland between dream and reality, surreal creatures and diverse environments will present the player with both physical and mental tools that challenge the player's creativity. So development began in 2011 and attracted €28,000 on May 27th and €25,000 on May 28th in funding. So around €50,000, and then the National Film Institute actually gave them an extra €50,000, and then another €100,000. So they've had €200,000 to make this game. And they also started a Kickstarter campaign which raised $248,000. So they've had a good few $100,000. And if they're achieved, if all the funding goals are achieved, they will actually add support for the Oculus Rift. So that's an interesting thing, actually, the Oculus Rift. Like, go with survival horror. You know, you would literally shit your pants, would you not? If you do it like that.
I'm down for that.
One example I would say, which that game sounds similar to, and reminds me of, is Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which is a game we haven't spoken about. Now that is a game I had. Oh my god! Many times I had to pause and get pictures of kittens up on my screen. And I know that sounds like PewDiePie, but I swear to God, I literally had to do stuff like that. It was the most scariest fucking thing I've ever played, because I did it in the dark, lights out, headphones on. Oh, Jesus Christ, what a stupid idiot I was.
I tell you what, man, they lost their edge in Machine Pigs, in my opinion, though. Maybe not the most popular opinion, but I didn't think too much of it.
As a general rule of thumb these days, I tend to avoid the sequels a lot, because, especially with games like that, because I know they had the Penumbra or whatever it's called series before that, and it was like you had Amnesia, you play it and it was great, and you think, right, and with the sequel coming out and other bits and that coming out so soon, it's just literally for me personally, it's too soon to jump in again, and I always have a feeling that when games come out so quickly like that, they're cashing in on the success of the previous one.
That's what you're worrying about. With game development only kind of going up in cost, with the investors kind of pressurising these people, as soon as they've got a hit on their hands, just to milk it until it's dead. Assassin's Creed, initially, not to start bagging on that, because I could go on all night, but when they first brought that out, I honestly thought they were going to make 3 games, and that was it. And that would have been absolutely perfect.
That was the original.
They've just butchered it, man.
That was, like you saying, that was their original plan. They were saying they was going to make a solid trilogy, and that was it. But then, again, a similar game that people can bag on, but I respect for leaving it there, at least for now, is Mass Effect, because they made they could have milked that for ages, but they made the solid trilogy, and that was it. I know they're working on, quotation marks here, a 4th installment, if you will, but it's not going to be related to Shepard at all. Shepard's saga and his story.
Or her.
It's done.
Or her.
Yeah, true.
Look, I'm not going to get into this. Yeah, her, him, her, whatever.
I always played as a her. Damn.
Pervert.
Lesbian pervert.
Yeah, did you always used to go off after the blonde chick? What was her name? The blonde alien? Blue alien.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Liara.
That's the one, Liara Tassoni. That's the one.
Yeah. Not the one with the weird ass gas mask. I don't want to be going out with someone from Slipknot.
No, not that one. Lyra, she's voiced. She's voiced by the chick that does Lightning in all the Final Fantasy 13 games.
I officially hate her then.
Yep.
That's it. You've ruined Mass Effect for me now. Thanks.
Yeah, it's all good.
I've got Final Fantasy 13 too, and is it 13 too, or it might be 12 too? I don't know.
Yeah, 13 too.
Since we're on the topic, I know we're on the topic survival horror, but now we're sort of sidetracking here. So the best survival fucking horror game is probably Final Fantasy 13. That game is so fucking scary bad. Because
yeah, I call that an on-rails RPG. Anyway, Jesus Christ, that was terrible. Right. Well, we're actually already coming to an end of our show. We've got about 7.5 minutes. So anything you guys want to chat about, survival horror related?
What's everybody's favourite, scariest moment from any survival horror game? Go!
Let me think. Bear with me.
Anything where it pops out. I'm all about the cheap pop. You know?
Mine is gonna... Oh, sorry, go on, Chris.
Just anything where it's been building the atmosphere for a long time, and suddenly, bam, there it is in your face. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
That's kind of what it's all about for me.
I think for me, mine is probably after you just literally seen your work colleague being eaten to death, you run back to the main hallway, and then your other work colleague turns to you and says, "It might be handy if the master of unlocking, take it with you." I think that's probably my favourite part in all.
What's that from?
Resident Evil 1.
Oh, okay.
Surely master of unlocking, should take it with you. Oh, dear.
Yeah, don't worry, I have this.
Take a look at this. Oh dear. Right. Have I got to go?
Yeah, you've got to go, buddy.
I would say it's a struggle between two for me. One would be from Silent Hill 5. Silent Hill 4. Sorry, The Room. When I was playing through that one night, I fell asleep in my apartment. I fell asleep in real life, but I was in my apartment in the game, which gradually becomes more haunted and fucks up the longer you play through it. And there's a section where if you walk over to the phone and answer it, there's basically just this voice on a continuous loop saying, "I am always watching you. I am always watching you." And that just kind of kept going all through the night while I was asleep. And when I woke up screaming and sweating because it had bled into my dream, I took the disc out and tossed it across the room. But it's a toss-up between that, or there's a moment in Silent Hill 2 where you go to the Silent Hill Historical Society, and there's a part where you kind of go through, there's a hole in the wall, and you go down these steps, and you're kind of running down these steps for the best part of 5 minutes, and there's this kind of weird music, kind of this industrial grinding music, and all these noises, and like the tension is building to almost like a fever pitch. And when you actually get to the end, nothing really happens. But for the entire 5 minutes while you're running down these steps, down this corridor, like you literally, like your heart is just jumping out your chest. You're just thinking any fucking second now something is just going to come out and skew me. And yeah, it's just great horror. Effective horror, because nothing actually happens to you at the end either.
Yeah, I think, jokes aside about mine, I think for me, if I think back, one of my favourites, now obviously, I know it's not going to have the same impact, but think back, this was 1996 now. I was like 8 years old. I mean, Christ, it doesn't matter how old you are. 1996, I never played anything like Resident Evil before. You run down that goddamn hallway and those dogs just burst through the window after you. Oh my God, I shit my ass so many times.
You know what? But the hunter follows you back through the door.
Oh yeah, God damn, that was creepy too. But it's just yeah, but that's sort of preparing you for it. With it, so you run in the hallway nice and quiet. Next minute, smash, and the music gets going. And I was like, oh my God.
So, since I've just picked up a PSP, what survival horror games have I got on there then?
I think Shattered Memories is on there, Silent Hill, but probably worth picking up. That's more like a detective game. There's no combat.
Is that the one where it's not a remake, but a reimagining, and it's the ice world?
Right, yeah.
I enjoyed that. I quite enjoyed that.
You can play through it in an afternoon. It's actually quite relaxing.
Well.
Well, apart from when you're getting chased, but the actual investigative parts where you're just sort of like running around, just checking stuff out, I don't know, it's actually kind of chilled out. I can't explain it.
Yeah, but the atmosphere is still quite tense at times, though, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I want to say, Resident Evil 1 Remake, I still struggle to play all the way through it without fucking having to leave the room every now and again. It's so creepy, and the graphics are still so good.
Yeah, I played it on the Dolphin emulator, running 1080p. I had like all the settings on maximum, and so the shadows aren't pixelated. They're literally perfect, all anti-aliasing, and it is one of the best experiences I've had in a while.
It just looks so good.
Yeah, it still looks like a AAA quality title even now, and that was released 2002 or something.
Oh yeah, for sure. They've got the atmosphere so right, and the fucking, what do you call them when you don't kill them right? Crimson Heads.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that. Oh, it's still giving me nightmares. Just when they spring up, and fucking leap you with blood just pissing out of their faces, and they want to claw out your precious eye juices. Not nice. Not nice. You got to cut off the heads or burn them shits. Remember that.
Okay.
Chris hasn't got a clue. You need to be educated, man.
I do. Well, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this in particular, because this is the genre I've always wanted to get into. So I'm super chuffed to be getting into it, actually. Slowly but surely. And I think that's about all we have time for. So thanks everybody for listening once again. I've been Chris Shanks, it's been the Retro Renaissance podcast with Brahilia Tom.
Yippee!
And thank you to our special guest again this week of Aydan Watkins. Do make sure to check out his videos. Speaking of survival horror, he has some very, very nice
your Resident Evil videos are awesome, dude.
Oh yeah, just a quick thing. If anyone, a very quick plug. If any of you are massive Resident Evil 2 fans, do a search of Resident Evil 1.5. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, guys, and here we go.
Bye, guys.